The control room aboard the United Earth Defense Command's flagship, the UEDC Vanguard, hummed with tense anticipation. Commander Adrian Cole stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the massive viewing screen displaying Mars and the space around it. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Marcus Flynn, approached with rapid steps. "Commander, the unidentified vessels have entered visual range," Marcus reported, handing over a digital tablet showing the approaching fleet's formation. Dozens of colossal ships, unlike anything known to human engineering. "Put it on the main screen, full magnification," Adrian ordered. The air stiffened as the crew obeyed, revealing the angular, menacing architecture of the alien ships. "Any response to our hails?" Adrian asked, turning to Communications Officer James Diaz. "Nothing but static across all channels, sir. It's as if they're deliberately ignoring us," James replied, his fingers dancing over the console in another attempt to bridge the communication gap. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Prepare a defensive perimeter. I want all crews at battle stations within the next 10 minutes. Marcus, coordinate with station commanders on the moon. We need every sensor and eye we have locked on that fleet." Marcus nodded and moved swiftly to carry out the orders. Meanwhile, Adrian turned to his tactical advisor, Major Simon Torres, who was analyzing the incoming fleet's potential tactics. "Thoughts, Simon?" Adrian asked, his voice a controlled calm that belied the storm brewing in his mind. "Their formation is tight, aggressive, not the stance of a diplomatic envoy. If they intended peace, we'd likely see a different approach. This is a show of force," Simon concluded, his eyes not leaving the tactical display. Adrian nodded grimly. "Let's hope they reconsider before this escalates beyond a show." Just then, the main screen flickered, and a face appeared. It was alien, marked by deep blue skin and piercing yellow eyes, framed by a high, ridged forehead. The translation software kicked in as the alien began to speak. "I am General Kral of the Takari Empire. Humans of Earth, you occupy a sector that has been claimed by the Takari sovereignty. Surrender your planet and its satellites, and you shall be spared. Resist, and you will be eradicated." The room fell silent, every crew member waiting for Adrian's response. He stepped closer to the communication panel, his expression steely. "General Kral, this is Commander Adrian Cole of the United Earth Defense Command. Earth is not for taking. We stand ready to defend our planet and our way of life. I urge you to reconsider your position." Kral's laugh, a harsh, grating sound, echoed through the command center. "Very well, Commander. You shall have your war." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Adrian turned to his crew, his demeanor unyielding. "You heard the man. We are at war. I need every station ready to engage. Simon, work with engineering to prioritize power to shields and weapons. James, keep trying to open a dialogue. We need more intel on their capabilities and perhaps find a peaceful resolution." Marcus returned to Adrian's side, reporting the readiness of lunar defenses and other strategic outposts. "Good work, Marcus. Keep me updated on any changes. We need to be 3 steps ahead at all times," Adrian instructed, then addressed his whole team with unwavering conviction. "We didn't ask for this fight, but we're not backing down. We'll give them nothing short of our best. Earth depends on it." Nods of affirmation came from around the room as each officer returned to their station, energized by their commander's resolve. Adrian watched the alien fleet's progress on the screen, preparing himself for the challenges ahead. In the depths of the United Earth Defense Command's Situation Room, Commander Adrian Cole gathered his senior officers for an urgent strategy meeting. The room, lined with holographic displays and digital maps, buzzed with low conversations as the team awaited Adrian's briefing. "Let's get to it," Adrian began, his voice firm, cutting through the murmurs. "The Takari have made their intentions clear. Our priority is to defend Earth and its interests. We need a plan that plays to our strengths, ingenuity, and unpredictability." Lieutenant Marcus Flynn, standing by a holographic display of Earth and its orbital defenses, chimed in. "We've managed to hold off their scouts with minimal damage, thanks to our satellite laser grid, but a full-scale assault will be much harder to repel with what we currently have in orbit." Major Simon Torres, the tactical advisor, stepped forward, toggling through various simulations. "Our analysis suggests that the Takari will use a direct assault strategy. They're likely to target our main defenses first. If we reroute power and fortify our key positions, we can turn these locations into traps." Adrian nodded thoughtfully. "Good. Set up false targets as well. Make them think they're hitting our critical infrastructure. Meanwhile, We'll hit them where they least expect it. Communications Officer James Diaz raised a hand. Sir, I propose we continue attempts to communicate with them. There might still be a chance to de-escalate, and at the very least, it could give us more insight into their tactics. Keep trying, James. Any information could be crucial. Adrian agreed, then turned his attention to Captain Laura Chen, who was responsible for the moon bases. Laura, how are the lunar cannons? I want them on standby to fire on my command. Captain Chen, a veteran officer with a strategic mind, replied, The lunar cannons are fully operational. We've also prepped additional missile silos that the Takari don't know about. They'll get a nice surprise if they come within range. Adrian's gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of each of his officers. This is going to be a tough fight, and we're not just fighting for territory. We're fighting for our survival. Each of you has a critical role. I trust you to perform your duties with precision. Marcus interjected. We have one more advantage, sir. Our pilots have been training in simulated alien combat scenarios. They're ready to pilot the new XJ-7 fighters, which are designed for rapid maneuvers and high-impact strikes. Excellent, Adrian said. Deploy the XJ-7 squadrons in defensive formations. When the Takari commit to their attack vector, that's when we strike hardest. The officers began to disperse to their respective stations, energized by the plan and their commander's confidence. Adrian stayed back, reviewing the global defense network one more time. He then opened a secure line to the president of the United Earth Coalition. Madam President, he began as her image flickered to life on the screen. The Takari have rejected all attempts at peaceful negotiation. We are proceeding with defensive operations. I believe we can hold them off, but any additional support from the member nations would be invaluable. The president, a stern woman with years of political battles behind her, nodded gravely. You have my full support, Commander. I'll rally the global leaders. Earth will stand united. We're all behind you. Adrian thanked her and ended the transmission. As he looked out at Earth through the command center's viewports, a sense of duty fortified his resolve. He knew the coming battle would test them all, but he also knew that Earth was not ready to give up without a fight. In the dimly lit briefing room aboard the UEDC Vanguard, Commander Adrian Cole and his team devised a covert operation that would extend beyond mere defense. We need to know more about the Takari's capabilities and their fleet composition, Adrian addressed his gathered officers. Lieutenant Marcus Flynn, always ready for action, leaned forward. We've got our special ops team prepped for reconnaissance. They can infiltrate the outer rim of the Takari fleet under stealth tech. Adrian nodded in approval. Marcus, you'll lead this mission. Take our best pilots and make sure you come back with valuable intel. We can't fight effectively if we're blind. Marcus saluted sharply. Understood, sir. We'll not let you down. Meanwhile, Communications Officer James Diaz continued his attempts to establish a line of communication with the Takari. With each failed attempt, the weight of their silence grew heavier, but he remained undeterred. I'm setting up a new frequency scan, trying to crack their comm encryption, James reported, his eyes not leaving the screen. Keep at it, James. Any breakthrough could be our ace in the hole, Adrian encouraged, then turned to his chief engineer, Lieutenant Grace Holden. Grace, how are the stealth modules holding up? Marcus will need them running beyond standard specs. Grace, a meticulous and highly competent engineer, updated her tablet and responded, I've boosted the cloaking device's efficiency by integrating some of the alien tech we recovered earlier. They should give Marcus and his team an extra layer of invisibility. Excellent work, Adrian replied, his mind racing through scenarios. As Marcus and his team suited up, Adrian pulled him aside for a final word. Remember, this is about gathering data. Engage only if absolutely necessary. We can't afford to provoke a full-scale battle, not yet. Marcus gave a grim nod. We'll be like shadows, sir. The stealth team departed from the Vanguard in small, high-speed craft that soon disappeared into the backdrop of space, masked by the advanced cloaking technology. Back on the ship, Adrian and the remaining crew monitored their progress anxiously. Hours into the mission, Marcus's voice crackled through the comm. Commander, we've penetrated the outer fleet. You were right, they've got ships here that aren't just war machines. Some are supply carriers, maybe even troop transports. Any sign of their command structure? Adrian asked, his focus sharp. Not clear yet, sir. But we've managed to tap into one of their satellite relays. We're downloading data now. Good. Keep me posted. Back on the Vanguard, James's persistence paid off. He suddenly perked up, a signal breaking through. Commander, I've intercepted something. It's a Takari communication. Audio only. Adrian rushed to James's station. The audio was garbled, but the translation software eventually clarified it into a stern, commanding voice, issuing orders for an upcoming operation. Looks like they're planning a significant move soon, Adrian deduced, piecing together the snippets of information. James, enhance the clarity. I need every word. The intercepted communications provided insights into the Takari's tactical plans, revealing a potential weak point in their fleet's formation. Armed with this new knowledge, Adrian felt a surge of strategic optimism. We have what we need to prepare a counteroffensive, he declared. Let's use this information to our advantage. We strike where they least expect it. As the stealth team made their way back, the crew of the Vanguard prepared for what might be their first real opportunity to turn the tide of the war. Adrian's command was clear, and his team was ready. The shadows had whispered, and now it was time for Earth to shout back. Commander Adrian Cole watched the strategic displays flicker with incoming data in the command center of the UEDC Vanguard. The information gathered by Lieutenant Marcus Flynn's stealth operation had revealed a potential weak spot in the Takari formation, and Adrian was determined to exploit it. Simon, take us through the plan based on the latest intel, Adrian instructed Major Simon Torres, who stood ready by the holographic projector. Simon activated the projector, displaying a 3D model of the Takari fleet arrayed around Earth. Here, he pointed to a cluster of ships on the flank, is where we strike. Marcus's team uncovered that these are primarily supply ships, less armored and poorly defended compared to their warships. A precise strike here could disrupt their logistics and give us a much-needed edge. Adrian nodded, turning to Captain Laura Chen. Laura, I want the lunar cannons ready to fire on my mark. Coordinate with the satellite grids to create a diversion. We need their eyes away from the target zone when we hit. Understood, Commander, Laura responded, her hands moving swiftly over her console to relay the orders. Meanwhile, Adrian approached Communications Officer James Diaz. James, any progress on negotiations? James shook his head. Still nothing, sir. They're not responding to any of our hails. Keep trying, Adrian urged, but make sure it doesn't interfere with our attack. We need silence on those channels until we strike. As the fleet prepared for the operation, Adrian's thoughts were on the upcoming battle. It was a high-risk maneuver, but the potential rewards outweighed the dangers. He turned to address his crew, who were silently preparing their stations. This is a critical strike that could shift the balance in our favor. I need everyone at their best. Stay sharp, follow your training, and keep your minds on the mission. We're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for the future of humanity. With the fleet in position, Adrian gave the command. Initiate Operation Iron Surge. All units, engage on my mark. The room tensed, every officer ready to play their part. On Adrian's signal, the lunar cannons fired a volley of high-powered laser beams, striking the Takari supply ships. Simultaneously, Earth's orbital satellites began a series of blinding light maneuvers, drawing the enemy's attention away from the decimated supply fleet. Marcus led a squadron of the new XJ-7 fighters, swooping into the chaos to target the disabled Takari vessels. Explosions lit up the space around Earth as the supply ships suffered critical hits. Direct hits on target, Marcus reported over the comm. Supply fleet is significantly damaged. They're scattering. Adrian watched the tactical display, noting the disruption in the Takari fleet's formation. Simon, deploy the reserves to press the advantage. Push them back while they're disorganized. As the reserves moved in, a sudden alert came through the communication system. A new message from the Takari command was being broadcast across all channels. Adrian listened intently as the Takari general's voice filled the room. Human commanders, you have struck a blow against the Takari Empire. This aggression will not go unanswered. Prepare for our response. Adrian's eyes hardened as he processed the threat. Let them come, he murmured. We're ready. As the battle progressed, the Takari response was swift and brutal, launching a counterattack with their main fleet. But Earth's forces were prepared, utilizing the disruption caused by the loss of their supply vessels to outmaneuver and outfight the enemy ships. The tide of war was slowly turning, and Adrian felt a cautious optimism growing within him. The Earth's defenses held strong, and for the first time since the conflict began, the Takari were on the defensive. The Vanguard and its allies regrouping, assessing the damage, and preparing for the next phase of the war. Adrian knew this was just the beginning, but it was a beginning that bore the promise of hope. As the morning sun cast its first rays over Earth, a tense atmosphere enveloped the command center aboard the UEDC Vanguard. The initial success of Operation Iron Surge had given Earth's defenders a short-lived upper hand, but Commander Adrian Cole knew the real battle was just beginning. "Report," Adrian demanded, scanning the room where his officers were busily analyzing incoming data from various fronts. Major Simon Torres, looking grim, delivered the latest updates. "The Takari are regrouping faster than we anticipated. Their main fleet has launched a series of coordinated strikes on our orbital defenses. We've managed to hold them off so far, but our resources are stretched thin." Adrian's gaze then shifted to Captain Laura Chen, who was coordinating ground defenses. "Laura, status on the planetary shield generators?" "They're holding up, but power levels are fluctuating under the continuous assaults. We're rerouting power from non-essential sectors to keep them operational," Laura responded, her voice steady despite the pressure. "We need those shields at full capacity. Do whatever it takes," Adrian instructed, turning to his tactical display. The situation escalated quickly as the Takari launched a full-scale invasion. Massive dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere, deploying ground troops and heavy armor in key metropolitan areas. It was clear that the Takari were intent on taking Earth by force. Adrian clenched his fists. "Deploy our mobile defense units. Engage the enemy on all fronts. We can't let them gain a foothold." Lieutenant Marcus Flynn, who had been coordinating air squadrons, chimed in. "Our fighters are engaging the enemy dropships, but there's a lot of anti-air fire coming from those troops. It's a hot zone out there." "Keep pressing, Marcus. Every second we delay them saves lives," Adrian replied, his voice resolute. The battle for Earth had turned into urban warfare. Skyscrapers turned into fortresses, city squares into battlefields. Adrian watched the live feeds from drones overhead, showing the relentless advance of Takari forces and the brave resistance put up by Earth's defenders. In the midst of chaos, a risky opportunity presented itself. Adrian noticed a pattern in the enemy's ground troop deployments. They were heavily reliant on a central command signal being broadcast from one of the larger Takari ships still orbiting Earth. "James, can you confirm the source of that command signal?" Adrian asked, turning to Communications Officer James Diaz. After a few tense moments of analysis, James nodded. "Confirmed, Commander. It's coming from that flagship orbiting over the Atlantic sector." Adrian formulated a quick plan. "Simon, prepare a strike team. We're going to take out that command center. Without it, their coordination on the ground will crumble." Simon quickly selected a team of elite operatives, including himself, ready for what was likely a suicide mission. "We'll need a fast insertion, hit them hard and fast, and get out before they know what hit them. Use the chaos in the cities as cover. Launch under the next barrage from their orbiting fleet," Adrian planned, his strategy clear. The strike team departed on a stealth shuttle, weaving through the debris and chaos of space battles raging above Earth. Their target loomed ahead, daunting but vulnerable. Back on Earth, as the shuttle approached the Takari flagship, Adrian monitored their progress anxiously. The future of Earth's resistance hung in the balance, resting on the shoulders of Simon and his team as they prepared to strike at the heart of the Takari command. The strike team breaching the hull of the Takari flagship, a beacon of hope for Earth's defenders fighting desperately below. Adrian's leadership had united Earth's forces against overwhelming odds, but the outcome of this daring mission would determine the fate of their world. In the cold, silent void of space, Major Simon Torres and his elite strike team maneuvered through the labyrinthine corridors of the Takari flagship. Each member was clad in a specialized suit, equipped with the latest in stealth and combat technology, their movements a whisper against the metallic hum of the alien ship. Back on the UEDC Vanguard, Commander Adrian Cole watched the operation's progress through helmet cams, his hands clenched behind his back. The tension in the command center was palpable, as every screen displayed different angles of the same desperate gamble. "Status report," Adrian's voice cut through the silence. "We're in, Commander," Simon's voice responded, a slight distortion coming through the comlink. "Approaching the main control hub. Resistance is lighter than expected. Looks like they didn't anticipate this move." On Earth, the ground battles raged on, but with the sudden, unexplained disruptions in Takari command communications, Earth's forces found themselves gaining an unexpected advantage. Lieutenant Marcus Flynn coordinated the ground operations, pushing the defenders to reclaim lost ground while the enemy was in disarray. "Keep the pressure up," Marcus relayed to his units. "Every inch we take back is one less they have to use against us." In the flagship, Simon and his team reached the heavily guarded entrance to the Takari command center. A quick exchange of fire ensued, the sharp reports of their weapons echoing through the ship's corridors. Within minutes, the guards were subdued, and the team breached the control hub. Placing the charges now, Simon updated, his camera feed showing him attaching explosive devices to critical components. Adrian responded, his voice steady. Proceed with caution, Simon. You need to get out as soon as those charges are set. The explosives in place, the team retraced their steps, racing against time to exit the flagship before detonation. Their escape was nearly compromised as they encountered a surge of Takari soldiers, alerted by the brief skirmish at the command center. With no time left for stealth, Simon led a fierce firefight as they cut their way through the enemy ranks. The strike team suffered casualties, but the determination and training of each member kept them moving towards their extraction point. Back on the Vanguard, Adrian felt every second stretch into eternity as he awaited confirmation of the team's exit. Finally, Simon's voice came through, strained but triumphant. Commander, we're clear. Detonate at will. Adrian gave the order, and the charges erupted in a blinding cascade of light and debris, visible even from Earth. The flagship, a central node of the Takari command network, was irrevocably damaged, severing the head from the snake. On Earth, the effect was instantaneous. Takari forces, now leaderless and confused, faltered. Marcus seized the moment, orchestrating a coordinated counterattack that overwhelmed the invaders in several key locations. As Adrian watched the flagship's destruction, a mixture of relief and sorrow filled him. The cost was high, but the mission was a success. Prepare for full assault, he commanded, his voice echoing across every ship and ground unit under his command. This is our moment to turn the tide. With renewed vigor, Earth's defenders launched their largest offensive yet, capitalizing on the chaos sown in the enemy's ranks by the loss of their flagship. The battle for Earth was far from over, but for the first time since the war began, victory seemed within reach. Adrian's leadership had steered humanity through its darkest hour towards a glimmer of hope. In the aftermath of the successful strike on the Takari flagship, Earth's forces, invigorated by a critical victory, pressed their advantage. Commander Adrian Cole surveyed the battle maps in the Vanguard's command center, where the tide was visibly turning. With the Takari fleet's coordination severely disrupted, their once formidable presence now seemed more vulnerable. Update on all sectors, Adrian commanded, his eyes scanning the dynamic displays that showed the progress of Earth's counteroffensive. Lieutenant Marcus Flynn, who had been coordinating the ground forces, stepped forward with a report. The enemy is retreating on multiple fronts, Commander. Our forces are reclaiming territories faster than we anticipated. It seems the destruction of their flagship has thrown them into chaos. Adrian nodded, the weight of command still pressing on him despite the turn of events. Let's not give them a chance to regroup. Push forward with all available units. I want continuous pressure on every front. Major Simon Torres, now back on the Vanguard after his daring mission, added, We've intercepted partial communications suggesting the Takari are attempting to establish a new command hierarchy. If we strike now, we can potentially capture several of their leaders, which would further demoralize their troops. Excellent, Simon. Organize a task force for this operation. Capture if possible, neutralize if necessary, Adrian directed, his strategic mind mapping out the next phase of the conflict. As Earth's forces tightened their grip, Adrian initiated a series of strikes targeting remaining Takari strongholds. Each operation was meticulously planned and ruthlessly executed, leveraging the enemy's disarray. In space, Captain Laura Chen led a squadron that intercepted a Takari cruiser trying to escape into a warp jump. No one gets away to bring reinforcements, she declared over the comms, as her team disabled the cruiser's engines with precise shots. On the ground, Marcus's troops liberated city after city, the local populations emerging from hiding to cheer their rescuers. Keep moving, team. Every block we clear is another step towards victory. Marcus encouraged his soldiers, his voice a steady presence in the chaos of urban warfare. Meanwhile, James Diaz continued his efforts to intercept Takari communications. Commander, I've cracked their latest encryption. It looks like they're calling for a retreat to regroup outside our solar system, James reported, a note of triumph in his voice. Adrian allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. Broadcast their retreat signals across all channels. Let everyone see their retreat. It's more than just a tactical win, it's a symbol of their failure. As the sun set on what was the most decisive day of the conflict, Adrian met with his senior officers to plan the next steps. We've got them on the run, but we're not out of the woods yet. We need to secure our defenses in case they try to return. And we need to start thinking about recovery and rebuilding. The meeting ended with a sense of cautious optimism. The officers returned to their posts, determined to see the war through to a successful end. Adrian looked out at the stars, where the debris of the Takari flagship still floated, a reminder of what had been achieved and the cost at which it had come. Earth's forces in full pursuit of the fleeing Takari, their spirits buoyed by the recent victories but mindful of the challenges ahead. Adrian's leadership had proven pivotal, not only in securing military victories, but also in fostering a renewed sense of unity and purpose among the people of Earth. The war had reached its climax. Earth's skies, once filled with the ominous shadows of Takari ships, now bore witness to the clear blue promise of peace. Commander Adrian Cole stood in the command center of the UEDC Vanguard, overseeing the final operations that ensured the Takari retreat was complete. "Final reports from all sectors," Adrian requested, his voice resonant in the now calm command center. Officers from various departments stepped forward, their faces marked by fatigue but underscored by a clear sense of accomplishment. Major Simon Torres was the first to report. "All Takari forces have been cleared from Earth's orbit. The last of their ships made a warp jump approximately 15 minutes ago, heading out of the solar system." Lieutenant Marcus Flynn added, "Ground forces are securing the last few liberated zones. There's extensive damage, but the sentiment among the population is overwhelmingly positive. They're ready to rebuild, and they're grateful for the protection we've provided." Adrian nodded, absorbing the weight of their victory and the path that lay ahead. "Thank you, everyone. Start coordinating with civilian agencies for relief efforts. We need to transition from combat operations to recovery as smoothly as possible." As the crew dispersed to follow his orders, Adrian walked to the viewing window, gazing out at Earth. The planet looked peaceful from space, its beauty belying the scars of war that marked its surface. He reflected on the costs of their defense, the lives lost, and the heroism shown by countless individuals. Turning back to the room, he noticed Captain Laura Chen and Communications Officer James Diaz discussing the next steps for securing Earth's defenses against future threats. "Ensure our monitoring systems are doubled. We can't be caught off guard again. Work with the R&D department to integrate Takari technology where feasible," Adrian directed, thinking ahead to how they could prevent another conflict. Laura nodded, her expression determined. "We'll have the first prototypes for enhanced sensors ready for testing within the month," James added. "And I'll continue to monitor interstellar communications. If the Takari or any other threats try to approach, we'll be the first to know." Adrian thanked them and then summoned his remaining officers for a brief closing meeting. "We've done more than survive. We've shown that Earth can defend itself against any adversary. But let's also remember the lessons we've learned here. Vigilance, unity, and the courage to face the unknown are what will keep us safe going forward." The officers echoed his sentiment, their pride in their achievements tempered by the sobering realities of war. In the following days, Adrian participated in global broadcasts, sharing the victory with the world and outlining the steps for rebuilding. Earth's nations, more united than ever, pledged their cooperation and resources to restore what had been lost. As Adrian watched communities coming together to rebuild, he knew that while the immediate threat was over, the journey toward lasting peace and security was just beginning. But Earth was ready, with its people stronger and more connected than ever. The memory of what they had endured would serve as a powerful reminder of their capabilities and their resilience. Earth had not only repelled an invasion, but it also laid the groundwork for a future where such a threat could never endanger them again. Under Adrian's leadership, humanity had indeed proven formidable, turning their greatest challenge into their most profound triumph.